What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Skull Network. My name is Nick, and welcome back to the weekly NFL Picks segment on the channel. This is week 5, and it feels like I'm back at square one, because last week for week 4, my picks went 9-7. Certainly not anything close to great, and the same record I got in week 1 when we didn't know anything about any teams. That brings the official season record to 39-25, and man, do I need a turnaround week this week. But honestly, I feel like a lot of people did a lot worse last week than in prior weeks. I mean, who would have thought the Jets and the Giants were both going to win, among other games? But let's not waste any more time because I'm just going to make myself sound like more of an idiot. Let's get into the Week 5 picks. Kicking it off with the only thing that has remained constant this season for me, and by that I mean I'm 4-0 on picking Thursday Night Football. We have the Rams and the Seahawks. The Seahawks came out and they performed very well against San Francisco, albeit against a team without Jimmy Garoppolo for a good chunk of the game. And the Rams, they did take their first loss, but it is to one of the best-looking teams in the NFL right now. I think the Rams are going to have a bounce-back week. I think Matt Stafford plays very well again and gets that offense rolling. I'm going to take the Los Angeles Rams to hopefully improve my record on Thursday Night Football to 5-0. Kicking off the noon games for Sunday, we're going to start off with the Minnesota Vikings and Detroit Lions because I want to put a stipulation out there because I have so much faith in the Minnesota Vikings. I'm not going to explain anything because you guys know how much I love the Vikings. But if the Minnesota Vikings lose to the Detroit Lions on Sunday, I will do the entire recap after eating the one chip challenge from Pakai. I think that's how you pronounce it. That's how much faith I have this upcoming Sunday. So you guys better be ready if the Vikings somehow manage to lose. I'm taking the Vikings. Moving on, we have the Jets and the Falcons. Now, these were two teams that played surprisingly well. Obviously, the Falcons lost, but Cordarrelle Patterson looked like the next coming of Barry Sanders. I don't think the Jets are going to succeed nearly as much as last week, and I think the Falcons have shown that they have found a piece on offense to really kind of get them some points when they need it, because clearly Kyle Pitts is not doing anything. So I'm going to take what is somewhat of an easy pick this week. I'm going to take the Atlanta Falcons. Moving on, we have the Green Bay Packers and the Cincinnati Bengals. Battle of 3-1 teams. The Bengals definitely one of the more surprising 3-1 teams in the league. The Packers, no one's really surprised at this. Aaron Rodgers still playing great. Joe Burrow in that Bengals offense has been playing surprisingly well, but I think their luck kind of comes to an end here, at least for 1 week. I think the Packers are going to take this one. Up next, we have the Titans and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, as we know, the Titans had that embarrassing loss to the New York Jets this last week, but I don't think that they are going to continue on this streak against bad teams. As of right now, I don't know the status of A.J. Brown and Julio Jones, but I do know that Derrick Henry is still on that team, and we all know the Jaguars defense is maybe subpar at best. Yeah, Ryan Tannehill didn't have the best luck, but again, this is a very bad Jaguars team, and Trevor Lawrence is still struggling to find a way to win games. Obviously, he's not in the best situation. Urban Meyer having all this controversy around him right now. But if I'm being honest, I think the Titans will have somewhat of a bounce-back week. I mean, it's hardly that because you're playing the Jaguars, but I think the Jaguars continue their super long losing streak. I'll be taking the Tennessee Titans. Up next, we have the Eagles and the Panthers. This is going to be a very close matchup because, as we know, the Panthers' offense is looking really good. Their defense is one of the best in the league, but the Eagles proved they could almost keep up with a high-powered offense in Kansas City. Their defense leaves a lot to be desired, which is why I am definitely leaning towards Carolina in this. Sam Darnold leading the league in rushing touchdowns. DJ Moore looking like a certified top 10 wide receiver. I think this one's going to be really close, but I do think Carolina is going to hold on. Next up, we have the Broncos and the Steelers, and the status of Teddy Bridgewater is still up in the air. So it really could be a toss-up if Teddy does not play. As we know, the Broncos did struggle without him in and having to work with Drew Lock, because of course, Drew Lock, not that great. The Pittsburgh Steelers defense, they didn't show up as much as they should have last week, and we all know what's going on with Big Ben. So this is possibly one of the toilet bowls of the week, if you really want to call it, which is odd considering Denver is 3-1. But I do have to make a pick here. I still really don't like Big Ben much at all, but I'm going to go with what I think is an upset here. I never really pick upsets, at least I haven't a lot this season. I'm going to be taking the Pittsburgh Steelers. Next up, we have the Dolphins and the Buccaneers, and as we know, Tom Brady did almost lose to his former team against Mac Jones last week on Sunday Night Football, but come on. This is Tom Brady we're talking about. The dude had, 9-10 touchdown passes in the first couple games of the season, and the Dolphins defense is not what a lot of people thought it was. Jacoby Brissett does seem to be struggling quite a bit right now. I think this one is going to be a turnaround game for the Buccaneers, and they're going to continue to show why they're Super Bowl favorites, or at least Super Bowl contenders. I'm going to be picking Tampa Bay in this one pretty easily. Up next, we have the Patriots and the Texans. As I just said, the Patriots almost were able to pull off that upset against the Buccaneers on Sunday Night Football. And the Texans, they got absolutely shredded by Josh Allen and that Buffalo Bills team 40-0. David Mills should still be the starting quarterback, which is enough for me to go on and pick the New England Patriots. Up next is the New Orleans Saints and the Washington football team. Now, Washington did look like they were going to be dropping that game to Atlanta, but they just somehow found a way to win, even with the defense that is continuing to show that it is clearly not what it was last season. And the Saints are proving to be the most volatile team in the league. You do not know what you're going to get from week to week. Don't know if you're going to beat the Packers or lose to the Giants, and that makes picking these games very difficult. Of course, Taylor Heineke is still in, but you have Terry McLaurin, you have J.D. McKissick, you have Antonio Gibson, you have all these weapons. It's just a question of, is Jameis Winston going to shred the Washington defense? I don't necessarily think that one of these teams is majorly favored by a lot of people, but I'm going to base this pick on the resiliency of Washington last week. I know that's not the greatest thing to go off of, but I honestly just don't know what I'm going to get with the Saints and Jameis Winston, and until they can show some sort of consistency, I honestly don't know what to do with them. So I'm going to take the Washington football team kind of reluctantly. Up next is the Chicago Bears and the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, Las Vegas did take their first loss against a very good Chargers team on Monday Night Football, and the Bears, they will be without David Montgomery, so Damian Williams will have to step up, and that probably won't bode very well for them. Damian Williams has not been a starter for, well, really ever. And if you have to rely more so on Justin Fields, who didn't throw a single touchdown last week against, I feel like Oakland could really have a field day with this, but I feel like these teams always play relatively close together, so I don't expect this to be a major blowout, but unless Justin Fields is able to show off and really have a great game and utilize Darnell Mooney and Allen Robinson very well, I think that the Raiders are going to have their bounce back game, get it to 4-1. I'll be picking the Las Vegas Raiders. Up next is probably the game of the week with the Chargers and the Browns. Now, as a Vikings fan, I know that the Browns are the real deal. Their defense, top notch, but the Chargers were able to hand Las Vegas their first loss, as I just said last week, so this game could honestly go either way. This is an immovable object against an unstoppable force. But I think the thing that really stops me from wanting to pick the Browns is Baker Mayfield. It was just so tough to watch him as a Vikings fan last week. He just missed so many open throws and really missed a lot of opportunities to really give that Cleveland team a chance to really blow out the Vikings. And I think if that continues this week, which I think there is the possibility of, I think that the Chargers are very capable of shutting down the Cleveland run game if it becomes a one-dimensional offense. And I think I'm going to go with what some people might consider an upset. Some people might not. I don't honestly know. I'm going to be picking the Los Angeles Chargers on this one. Up next is the Giants and the Cowboys. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. I understand the Giants went and beat the Saints last week, but again, the Saints are one of the most volatile teams in the league, and I don't really think that it's that impressive that the Giants were able to pull out an overtime win. The Cowboys look to have one of the best offenses in the entire league, and I think they're going to show out. I think that the Giants could hang with them for a bit. I think Daniel Jones is playing a lot better, and obviously Saquon is starting to play a lot better as well. He's putting up much better numbers than he did at the beginning of the season, but I'm sorry. That Cowboys team, and especially the defense now with Trevon Diggs, they're playing great on all cylinders, and I think it's going to be tough for the Giants to win. Even though it is an interdivision matchup, I'm going to be taking the Dallas Cowboys pretty easily on this one. Up next is the 49ers and the Cardinals. Now, as we know, Jimmy Garoppolo probably will not be playing this upcoming week, leaving the game in the hands of Trey Lance against probably the best team in the league up there with the Rams, and I don't think this one's going to be relatively pretty for San Francisco. Their defense has been struggling a little bit more than people expected as well, kind of like Washington in that sense, and Kyler Murray's the front runner for the MVP. They are incredibly deadly, and it's going to take a lot to stop them. I don't think this is going to be particularly close. I want to see Trey Lance succeed, but it's not going to happen against the Arizona Cardinals. Up next, we have the AFC Championship from last season, the rematch, the Chiefs versus the Bills. These are the two highest powered offenses in the AFC by far, and this right here is the game of the week, folks. Josh Allen and that Buffalo offense is firing on all cylinders right now, putting up 40 last week, but the Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes threw 5 touchdowns last week, albeit against a relatively poor Philadelphia Eagles defense. The Bills defense is much better. They are one of the top 5 defenses in the league, and that's going to make for this to be a very close game. I think the important thing for this game is that Buffalo's run offense has been a lot better in the past few weeks than it has been in really years past. I wouldn't necessarily say I think Josh Allen is a better quarterback than Patrick Mahomes, but I think that his suite of weapons, including the run game and including a great defense, is really what puts Buffalo over the top and is one of the reasons that they're a major Super Bowl contender. Now, do I think that they're going to absolutely blow out Kansas City? No, I don't think so, but I do think that Buffalo is going to take this one. I think they're going to get their revenge. And ending off of the week, we have the Indianapolis Colts and the Baltimore Ravens. As we know, the Ravens, they're playing as well as ever. They obviously took down the undefeated Broncos, of course, albeit without Teddy Bridgewater. Their running game, of course, is great. They're kind of douches for what they did at the end of the game, but you can all have your own opinions on that. The Colts did finally take their first win, again, albeit against Jacoby Brissett, and a struggling Miami defense. And yeah, it looks like Jonathan Taylor's having a little bit of a resurgence. I've been waiting for that in fantasy personally. I think this could be relatively close, but honestly, I think the Ravens offense is just a little too high powered. And I just think the Colts are struggling a little bit too much in too many facets of the game to make this a relatively close game, so I'll be picking Baltimore for this one. And that's going to end off the Week 5 picks, everyone. If you thought any of these were great, or if you thought any of them were terrible, whatever your opinion is, let me know down in the comments below, and we will certainly talk it out. If you guys are new to the channel, make sure you hit the button down below to subscribe, and if you enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a like as well. If you want to share this video with anyone, you can do that with anyone on any platform, and if it's a crack dealer on the corner, that's your guys' best option. You guys already know. My name's Nick. I'll see you guys all in the recap between the Minnesota Vikings and the Detroit Lions. Adios.